Imagine being dragged into the royal court of a Persian emperor. You are a captive woman, surrounded by soldiers and courtiers. Your body is no longer your own. It is property, punishment, and entertainment. And the cruelty that follows isn't random. It is law, ritual, and power. Subscribe to Darker Days for more of history's darkest truths. If you believe these women should never be forgotten, hit the like button now. 1. Public stripping and shaming. Captured women were paraded through markets or courts stripped of clothing. The act was meant to humiliate, to strip away dignity before punishment even began. For women of noble birth, this was considered a fate worse than death, as it erased honor and status in front of entire crowds. 2. Whipping in the courtyard, beatings with leather whips or rods were routine punishments. Women were tied to posts in palace courtyards and lashed until their flesh split open. Sometimes salt or vinegar was rubbed into the wounds to intensify the pain. The spectacle was often carried out publicly to warn others against disobedience. 3. Branding as property. Captive women could be marked with hot irons, branded with symbols of ownership. The searing pain was permanent, scarring the skin with letters or signs of the emperor's household. Branded women became living reminders of conquest. 4. Forced labor until collapse. Beyond the palace, many women were sentenced to backbreaking labor, hauling water, grinding grain, or building fortifications. Those who faltered were whipped or beaten to death. Survival meant exhaustion, collapsed lungs, and broken bones from endless toil. 5. The pillar of shame. Some women were tied to tall wooden poles in city centers, left for days without food or water. Passers-by jeered, threw stones, or spat at them. The punishment wasn't only about pain, but about public degradation, turning captives into examples of dishonor. 6. Burning coals and fire torture. Reports from ancient chronicles describe women forced to walk barefoot across burning coals, or having hot embers pressed against their skin. The burns crippled many, leaving them disfigured for life. Fire was a sacred symbol in Persia, and twisting it into punishment carried added terror. 7. Dismemberment as spectacle. In extreme cases, women were executed piece by piece. Fingers, hands, or even breasts were cut off before final execution. Crowds watched as the body was mutilated slowly, both punishment and entertainment for the empire's subjects. 8. The cage confinement. Women could be locked into small iron or wooden cages, too small to sit or lie down. They were displayed in markets or near temples, starving and dehydrating in plain view. Death was slow, humiliating, and public. 9. Sexual slavery and exploitation. Captive women were often forced into harems, where they became property of the court. Refusal or resistance brought beatings, starvation, or death. The constant fear of being chosen for exploitation was a punishment that stretched for years, not hours. 10. The water drowning ritual. Some accounts describe women bound and lowered repeatedly into rivers or fountains, nearly drowned each time. The cycle of choking, gasping, and being pulled back only to be submerged again created psychological torture as much as physical. 11. Stoning in the streets. For crimes such as disobedience or escape, women were buried up to the chest and stoned. The slow barrage of rocks caused agony long before death, while the public nature of the act ensured humiliation as well as suffering. 12. Suspension by the hair or arms. Some women were tied by the hair or arms and hoisted into the air, left dangling until shoulders dislocated. Beatings often followed, prolonging agony. Survivors lived with permanent injuries and disfigurements. 13. Poison and forced ingestion. Captives could be forced to drink poison, molten metal, or substances designed to cause slow internal burns. Death was agonizing. with victims screaming as their throats and stomachs burned from the inside. 14. The death marches of captives. After conquests, women were often forced to march across deserts with no water. Those who collapsed were beaten or executed. Survivors reached cities half dead, only to be paraded as trophies before harsher punishments awaited them. 15. Execution by fire or sword. The final punishments were often executions, burning at the stake, impalement, or decapitation by sword. For emperors, these deaths were not only justice, but theater. The screams and ashes of women became symbols of their power. For captive women in Persia, punishment wasn't only about pain. It was about stripping dignity, identity, and hope. From whipping posts to stoning pits, from branding irons to cages, their bodies became canvases of terror, designed to show that imperial power had no limits. If you made it this far, you've just heard one of the darkest stories of ancient empires. Subscribe to Darker Days for more hidden truths they never wanted you to know. If you believe these women should never be forgotten, hit the like button. Which do you think is worse, death itself, or the slow humiliation that came before it? Let us know in the comments.